time to go on the record with WRAL News.
Good evening, I'm Travis Fain. There is a childcare shortage in this country. Many call it a crisis, and though it is not as bad in North Carolina as in some states, it has the attention of the business community, which is pushing for more government subsidies. Daycare wait lists for babies and toddlers often run more than a year. The monthly cost could be more than a mortgage payment. It is so difficult for parents to find affordable, quality care for their young children that some have simply dropped out of the workforce. And while some prefer to stay home, not everyone can afford to do that. When more people do it, it fuels a worker shortage across the economy. We have an experienced panel tonight. Susan Gale Perry has a long career in early childhood learning and is now a top official at the state's Department of Health and Human Services. Sherry Melton is a longtime consultant for the North Carolina Licensed Child Care Association, an organization of child care providers. You'll also hear from Governor Roy Cooper and from top legislative leadership about what they're doing to address this problem. But we begin with two preschool owners. Alicia Fink from Oak Village Academy here in Wake County and Iris McCrae from Over the Rainbow Child Development Center in Richmond County. Welcome. And Alicia, let's start with you. Before the pandemic, you told me, when you had job openings, you'd get 30, 40 resumes from potential teachers, many of them with experience. What's it like now?
Well, now we're seeing a drastic decrease in the applicant pool that's coming in as a whole. And the applicants that are coming in are more so non-experienced, not educated in the early childhood field, and people that are simply looking for a position versus an educator teaching space in a child care center.
And that's got to be tough. I understand that you're competing with a number of different entities that are paying more now, fast food, different jobs. Iris, I want to turn to you. You run a 24-hour daycare serving single mothers who work nights and leave their kids with you to sleep often. But you can barely keep staff, correct?
I can barely keep staff, correct.
And how is that manifesting? I mean, what are you doing to kind of make this all work, and what could make it better?
Trying to offer more income, teacher pay. And sometimes that doesn't work. I'm at the point now, I may have to shut down my second and third shift just to transition my teachers to first shift, just to keep up with the demand on first shift.
And first shift is the day shift, of course. What happens if you have to do that? I mean, what happens to these parents who are working these night shifts?
Right now in my county, there may be one or two daycare homes that offer a second, third shift, but you only allow so many children as a daycare home. You can only have up to 8 children. And there's a big demand for second and third shift daycare. It's just trying to find enough employees or enough of staff that are qualified to accommodate those parents.
All right, statewide pay for these jobs averages around $12 an hour. Sherry Melton, I want to move to you. You consult with this industry statewide. What we've heard there from two providers and their struggles to recruit, their struggles to retain, their struggles to keep things going. Is that consistent with what you're seeing across the state?
100%. That is the number one challenge for all of the child care providers that are members of our association and that we represent. We represent them all. You know, there's over 5,000 child care programs that are licensed in North Carolina, and it's the number one challenge. It's also the number one barrier to expanding access to child care services for all of the North Carolina families that need it.
All right, I want to back up a little bit. I want to bring you in, Susan. Describe for us how this system works. How much of the state's daycare and preschool, and we're generally talking children up to 4 years old tonight. That's what we're talking about with childcare. How much of that is strictly private, parents just paying out of pocket, and how much of it is subsidized? And then how much taxpayer money do we put in?
Well, thank you for that question, Travis, and thank you for covering this really important topic. I want to start by giving a shout out to the child care providers across the state who are heroes every day, but have certainly been superheroes as we've moved through this pandemic, and you're hearing some of their struggles. You know, what we know, and you talked about it at the beginning, is that the vast majority of financing for child care comes from parent fees. That represents close to 70% of all the money that small childcare businesses receive are from parent fees, and then the other 30% comes from public childcare subsidy financing.
Yeah, and it's a relatively small part of the state budget. I know in North Carolina, I think something like 60% of the state budget, that's K-12, college education. We spend about 1% of the state budget on early childhood education. Iris, I want to bring you back in. I want to talk about market rates. So basically, the state helps pay for daycare, not by paying what it costs you to provide it, but they pay at the 75th percentile of what people are already paying in a given area. So they study how much people pay for childcare, and then they pay you a portion of that. How does that impact you in Richmond County?
It's a very big impact. My county got a very little market increase this time around. And then the ones that did get it was like a 3 or 4 star. 5 stars received nothing. And nothing has changed. I have gone up on my prices just slightly because of the district and the county that we live in. But I'm trying to compete with the fast food restaurants, Walmart, industrial manufacturers. And it's a struggle to keep up with them. And you have staff coming in saying, Miss McCray, I can go to McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken or wherever it may be, and they're saying I'm making more money. And it's a big struggle. As a matter of fact, you have some counties that make way more than our county does. It's by the minimum $150 to $900 more a month per child than what I make, and I'm doing all I can to keep my doors open, but right now it's just a struggle.
Susan, is this market rate structure where what the state pays is less in some communities than others, is that something that might change? I know Virginia has a pilot program paying not on market rates, but true cost of care. Any momentum for something like that in North Carolina?
Absolutely. Thanks for that question, Travis. In fact, we are currently working on what we call an alternative market rate. So an alternative way of setting rates for childcare, recognizing that simply looking at market fees alone is insufficient, because we already know that costs are constrained by what parents can actually afford to pay. And these are often young families early in their wage earnings. And so we really need to find another way to really look at how we fund childcare, both on the supply side and on the demand side, because just a per slot rate alone is not going to get us to where we need to go with financing, when we know that childcare teachers are only making $12 an hour, and yet families are spending up to $10,000 a year on childcare for one infant.
So Sherry, help me understand, because this problem, it seems two-sided to the point of how can it simultaneously not pay enough to be able to attract people to work in the industry, but also too expensive for families to afford?
Right. And also not bring in enough revenue for these childcare programs, these childcare businesses like Alicia's and Iris's, to be on stable financial footing. So it's not only not working for families because it's too expensive, and not working for the employees because they're not earning enough, but childcare programs have closed and are closing and are shrinking in size. And we're not seeing a growth in this infrastructure because it's difficult to make the financing work. So it's really not working for anybody. And really, Travis, it has to do with requirements for quality and safety. Really, if you think about it, I mean, families might think listening to this discussion, well, why doesn't Iris just pay her employees more? Why doesn't Alicia just pay her employees more in order to compete with Walmart or with Target or with Amazon? Well, revenue only comes into these childcare programs in one of two ways: either what we charge parents who pay their own costs themselves, or what the government reimburses these programs for providing subsidized care. Well, everybody says tuition's already too high. that we can't raise our tuition. If our programs do that, they're just going to price families out. And the federal government says they really don't want families spending more than 7% of their income. And I think in North Carolina, we're between 11 and 12% on average. So that's not a solution. So you look at the government subsidies, the government reimbursements to these centers for providing care for these families that qualify for help so that they can work. And the truth of the matter is those reimbursement rates are just too low. They're too low across the state. They don't match the requirements that are baked into the system. We have requirements on our employees who we can hire in order to be a high quality program. There are lots of space requirements, indoor and outdoor space. It's a heavily regulated industry with a lot of requirements to try to ensure not only health and safety, but what we have defined as quality, and they're expensive. And if we want a certain workforce or a certain learning environment for these children, we have to reimburse these businesses in a way that makes sense, that lines up with those costs, with those requirements. We cannot.
We're going to talk more about those requirements. I need to take a break right now. When we come back, we'll also talk about some potential solutions and why this issue affects you even if you don't have children. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're discussing a shortage in a key piece of infrastructure, childcare. The people caring for young children, as I said, typically make about $12 an hour. A lot of families can't afford to pay more, and this is one of the reasons you're waiting in longer lines at stores, and that employers say they're having trouble filling positions across the economy. I want to talk a little bit about regulations now and ratios. The big reason that childcare is so expensive is that you need a lot of adults to watch babies and toddlers. 1 adult to 5 babies is the rule in North Carolina, 1 adult for 10 children when they're 2 and 3 years old, and so on. Alicia, I want to ask you, are those ratios in the right place? Do any of them need to change? Can fewer adults deal with more children?
Well, actually, those ratios are the state minimum requirements. And if you're running a 5-star center or a center that is operating under the highest voluntary ratios, then you're operating with fewer children with that amount of adults. So I don't feel like that you can have more children. I don't think that people can or would accept a larger group size. And I don't think that the teachers would be able to provide the quality care that we need to provide or want to provide and strive to provide as early childhood educators. But in a lot of centers across the board and across the state, you're looking at a 0 to 12 month 1 to 4 ratio and not necessarily 1 to 5. So it creates even less space for those families that need care and a longer waiting list for those families.
Yeah, and of course, people look for the 5-star rating when they're looking for a place for their child. And I should mention, I mean, that's the system that the state uses to kind of signal to the public the level of quality at these. It's 1 to 5 stars, and most of the facilities, I believe, in North Carolina are 5 stars. I want to talk a little bit about a group called Ready Nation, which is pushing for more federal funding in this area. They released a study earlier this month pegging economic losses nationwide from the lack of childcare, people basically leaving the workforce, at $122 billion a year. That's up from $57 billion in 2018. The group said 23% of people surveyed had been fired because of trouble getting care. 26% said they'd quit. 41% turned down a job offer. Iris, these are big numbers. It's hard for me to believe, frankly, but tell us how this is playing out in your community. You talked about people moving to McDonald's. How many parents have you talked to who, because they can't find or afford childcare, are leaving the workforce?
They're leaving because they can't. I've had 15 parents in 2 months to have to terminate their daycare services because they couldn't afford to pay out of pocket. I have parents that work at fast food restaurants, but they go down to social services to get assistance. They put them on a 1 to 3 year waiting list and say, Ms. McCray, listen, I can't afford to pay your prices. I'm going to have to take my children out of daycare because they just can't afford it. And we need a system where if a parent has a child or children and they're trying to better themselves in the workforce, that they can go to their local social services and get that assistance immediately. not have to be put on a 1 to 3 year waiting list.
Yeah, there's a significant waiting list if you want these subsidies right now. But we're also subsidizing, during the pandemic and right now, the federal government propped up the system with billions of dollars, $1.3 billion in North Carolina, mostly to boost salaries. What happens if that money runs out this year? Sherry, let's go to you on this. When the federal pandemic funding runs out and we hit that quote unquote cliff, what happens to this system?
A disaster. And that's not overstated. I mean, you can only imagine if we're staring off the edge of $1 billion cliff, and that support funding that has supported this workforce and supported these childcare businesses, this infrastructure just goes away. What's going to happen? I mean, pay for these very valuable workers cannot go backwards, and costs have only gone up during the pandemic. So we would see childcare programs fold. We would see a lot of them that struggled to make it through the pandemic just fold. And all of those families would be stuck without care for their children. And so they'd have to leave the workforce. And I can't even imagine. And I think that conversations like this are really important to raise awareness about this issue so that we can make sure that doesn't happen.
All right, Susan, at the end of that money, that funding cliff, that's why your department is asking the state legislature for an extra, $300 million over the next 2 years, right? But is that a temporary fix, or is that kind of funding sustainable long term?
We recognize that the financing model for childcare was broken before the pandemic, and the pandemic has only made it significantly worse. Right now, we've got to stop the bleeding. We absolutely have to be able to continue these stabilization grants, largely for compensation purposes for the childcare workforce. We have shared that we think it would be over the next 2 years, approximately $300 million. But after those 2 years, the problem will remain the same. Parents can only afford so much, and teachers need to have salaries that they can live on to stay in the field and want to be in the field caring for our youngest children.
There are also conversations about businesses taking on more of the responsibility here, treating this a little bit more like health insurance. And there's some innovative ideas. There's one out in Yadkinville, Susan, I'm sticking with you on this one, where the local business community would put together a building and 6 different programs, childcare programs would be there. They would share a playground, for example. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you have to have a playground, but they would all share it to cut costs. Is that something that the state will support, that kind of change?
Well, first of all, we certainly welcome corporate involvement, and I think there are opportunities to incentivize businesses to get engaged and support their employees around childcare. What Yadkin County is doing is very innovative. We've been working closely with them on it, and I think part of what we want to look at is all kinds of models that can really improve accessibility of childcare, particularly in rural communities. We're looking at things like networks of family childcare homes who may share some kind of back office support services. So there are a number of creative models out there that we need to be looking at the same time shoring up the childcare industry that we already have in those small businesses.
All right, we're going to take one more break. When we come back, you'll hear from state leaders about what they expect to do this year on this issue. All right, welcome back. The struggle to recruit childcare workers is certainly not the only workforce shortage in our economy, but it helps drive the other ones. And as mentioned earlier, strengthening this system is a top priority for the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce, a powerful lobbying group that ensures it will be top of mind for political leaders. I want to play some sound now from Governor Roy Cooper on this topic.
But childcare, quality childcare is really a twofer. Number one, the science is overwhelming that quality childcare makes a significant difference in a child's life and what kind of student they are. And number two, quality childcare gets parents back into the workforce to fill these hard to fill vacancies that we have out there. So I think it's a really good use of funding.
We expect the governor to ask the state legislature for $300 million on this, and I want to play sound now from Senate Republican leader Phil Berger, probably the most influential man in the General Assembly.
I think anything that we can do that facilitates the ability of North Carolinians to get and keep jobs it should be and will be a priority of this General Assembly. Childcare is known to be a pressing issue for a significant number of our citizens. What we, as a practical matter, can or will be able to do about that is something that, I mean, we just have to have conversations about it.
All right, so that's Phil Berger being his normal non-committal self there. I want to ask Iris, what sort of level of faith do you have that the state government or federal government, I mean, there is a chance that more federal funding is coming down the pipe here, although that does take longer. What's your level of faith that this issue gets addressed in the near term?
I believe that they will make a change sooner than later. It needs to really be addressed. I was just sharing earlier with the panel that my daycare, my teachers, I pay them staffers up to $15 an hour, and I don't get the same funding as Durham County or Wake County or Guilford County. I don't get that funding. I don't get the same funding. So I'm hoping, and I'm very faithful, and I'm trusting in our federal and state government to help us with the crisis that we have with child care.
All right, Sherry, you understand the landscape here. What sort of expectation do you have that this gets addressed in a really meaningful way in the next, let's say, 8 months?
Oh, wow. Well, let me say I do have a lot of faith in our state leaders here in North Carolina. Susan and the folks she works with at the agency and our state government leaders like Senator Berger and House Speaker Moore. Parents are crying out. The business community is crying out. The economic development community. I mean, if there's a silver lining to the pandemic, it's really elevated this issue. And I have a lot of faith in our state leaders. They're exploring all sorts of solutions, and there's not going to be just one. It's going to take a lot of different solutions. We're going to go at it a lot of different ways. But to be fair to the state leaders, we need action out of Congress. States can't solve this problem alone. North Carolina can't. No state in the country can. The federal government's got to step up, and they've had lots of chances. So I don't know how much faith I have in the federal government right now, but I have a lot of faith in our state's leaders. But as to 8 months, Travis, government moves often too slow. It often moves a lot slower than businesses and families need it to. So I'm hopeful that we'll see action in the upcoming legislative session to help with this crisis. And I do have faith in our state leaders, but how fast it comes and how much they can get done without the support of our representatives in Congress remains to be seen.
All right, one thing I'll note as we kind of wrap up the show here, North Carolina has been cutting corporate income taxes for years. We're slated to fall to 0% corporate income tax in 2030. I asked Chamber of Commerce President Gary Solomito if businesses would be willing to forego some of that tax cut, use that money to boost this child care system. He said maybe, and that the Chamber has never asked to go to zero. But when I asked Senator Berger about this, he chuckled, said he's against tax increases. So I don't know that that's likely to happen anytime soon. That's about all the time we have tonight. Thank you so much for spending time with us on an important issue. I want to thank our guests for taking the time. To you at home, thanks for watching. If you have something to say about tonight's discussion, follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/WRAL. Email us comments, questions, criticisms on the record at WRAL.com. Write us a letter. Send it to On the Record at P.O. Box 12,000, Raleigh, zip code 27605. We've talked about a few of the challenges you're facing out there, but you don't have to go through it alone. WRAL.com's family section has tips from parents, for parents, on everything from the best playgrounds to kid-friendly recipes. Sign up at WRAL.com.